All right, you know what time it is. It's a season 2 review, and the season 2 that I'm going to talk about, I liked it. I liked the first season. I was so surprised that I didn't run into this anime at first. Sorry, I just like jammed right through. Welcome to my corner of the internet. Like, comment, and subscribe. That'll be much appreciated. I'm trying to do these a little bit more often because it's the end of the year and I just have some ideas I got to give to you guys. And I've been watching a lot of anime just like casually. So back to the anime. It was great, but I think it's doing what anime always does, where it literally will just go too far. And I feel like this anime is close to doing that. Obviously, I'm speaking about 86 season 2. I wanted to stop while it's ahead. And some of you might be like, what do you mean? Big dog, anime, a lot of animes that are at least shorter in nature or become hits for whatever gimmicks are within it. Like, I think of it like SAO. When they started doing like the third and fourth season, you're just like, dude, hang it up. I think 86 is approaching that territory because the first season of 86 was slick editing, stark emotional contrast. It was harrowing. It was depressing. It was oppressive, some of those episodes, but it was so beautifully directed that you were just like in there for the ride. The flicks between the suffering, the deaths of certain characters. There was moments where we felt the emotional toll of what war was doing to our characters and the slowly easing of how our characters would lose more and more comrades and they would show up as ghosts for Shin. The story was beautiful. Like 86 was a 10 out of 10 and I still believe that. That first season is Hall of Fame worthy. Just like SAO. The first season is breathtaking. It's amazing. And one of the coolest things about 86's first season was its ability to genuinely shock you with how it was edited and how cold it could come off. So we're reintroduced to the second season and some of the slick editing is there. It's not there as often. I could understand why they decided not to go back to the same formula that gave us such a great masterpiece, because at the end of the day, the stakes have pretty much changed. It's not the same emotional toll, though we have a bit of a connection to our characters that they could have exploited, but they didn't, which I'm okay with personally. Also, heavily spoilers to come ahead, so if like you haven't seen like 86, you might not want to watch this video, you know. But the world is still harsh, but our heroes, or 86 kids, basically are saved by a different federation. And here we are. They are adopted. They're given a freedom and they are considered to be literally able to retire. They could give up and not do this anymore. And there is a moment where they all kind of think about it. They ponder what life could be if they stopped fighting. And it's a real thought because they've made it. Well, somewhat, because there is this growing tension of several attacks that's going to come on to several different places. And finally, like Saint Magnolia, they're going to get what they deserve, which felt great, but it also felt like, uh-oh, this is like when a place falls, like you got to know that another place is going to be next. And this all happens in the anime and you feel resolved in that. But also there's these philosophical conversations of how they are being pitied because of their journey, but part of it was them fighting for their own survival. Now, I feel like this is a little bit of a weaker argument because at the end of the day, they were basically child soldiers that were forced to always almost die for people that did not care about them or give them much options and resources. So of course, another federation who has a bit of a heart, which the director does, even though he's a little bit like unalivey in his like ways of like, you know, just his moral compass is a little bit harsh for how the world is. And that's understandable. It's there. It's interesting, but it gets a little weird. It gets a little too anime. Oh, the world should die if we can't take care of these kids. But he has some fair arguments. Like, he's not wrong. It's just a little too anime for me personally. But there is this idea that they are being pitied. Like, they're being told, hey, you're just kids. You don't have to fight anymore. And it gets a little weird to the point where, like, they're now being talked down to and expected to just give up. But at the end of the day, they are probably way stronger than the normal soldier, which has its pluses and minuses. This anime is filled with heavy PTSD, genuine survivor's guilt, a lot of trigger warnings if, say, for instance, you've been around that. As someone who's lived around a lot of veterans and who has volunteered at the VA hospital throughout his entire life, some of these symptoms I can totally point out. Now, I'm not diagnosing people, but I can totally see how these kids have been indoctrinated and they are definitely going back to war. Like, it wasn't like the right answer for them to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go be a soldier. That definitely wasn't like the full answer, but it was in some way them being able to make a choice in how they live their life. Because at the end of the day, the oppressive, like, personality snatching monsters is still very much there, and the fight is still very much like live. It's just they could totally just vacation and like not deal with that anymore, but they decide they would rather, you know, die than like just like not, because there is also this moment where they're scared of speaking of their future, which I really enjoyed. This conversation of, are you really alive if you don't have any wishes or any real desires?
これは思ったより怖いわね。頭おかしいんじゃないの。これ最初に作ろうとか言い出したやつ。あら、怖いもの知らずのあなたたちにそう。
That is so present in this anime, and I thought it was a very compelling argument. This season was more argumentative, and you deal with understanding how Shin feels. He's off as usual. Some of our characters are reckoning with the choices that are being made and the losses that have been made. The emotional toll is totally there, but their connection together and feeling and enjoying a better space. There's this moment in the anime where they enjoy people directly talking down to them versus like the secret stares and the pity. And it was a solid moment because I definitely enjoy when people are mean to my face instead of like silently mean to me. You know, I just totally enjoy that more as someone with my issues, you know? Then there's an adding of this character that supposedly kicked off the autonomous robots like fight that was supposed to fight for them. Now we're getting a little bit more reasoning into how this popped off, because in the first season we didn't necessarily know how this circumstance of war came, but unfortunately this is where my problem was. When the introduction of Federica, I was like, okay, lolly, not super into that, but you know, anime's gonna anime, you can ignore it, which it was an interesting take, and she wasn't so annoying. I realized that they balanced it well enough that where when she was introduced, it wasn't so heavy, but there was times where I was just like, why are you taking up so much of the episode, which was tiring. And then there is another like Nozen clan that has been personality snatched, and that's our main antagonist for this season, and it wasn't bad. It really wasn't, but it was approaching stale antagonist, and 86 didn't have to do that. 86 has more than enough plot points and ideas where you do not have to rely on this personality's being snatched and the conflict between them and them being another Nozen clan. Like, that does not have to be a crutch. This anime could have went without Federica, or even had her, but she was just not that important. It just could have been totally different, bro, because it was approaching like just kind of boring, just personally kind of boring and a little repetitive, because you know this plot. You know this plot. 86 did this plot slightly. All these other animes have attempted this plot, and it's not as interesting, and it was attempting SAO. And I could see how like they were trying to draft this like arching story that had multiple seasons where we are just like dealing with different antagonists and the story shifts slightly and they keep propagating the Nozen clan and Shin and his group, and maybe they might sacrifice one of them every other season to really make it seem like, yeah, it's still as harsh as it could be. I don't want them to do that. I low-key want 86 to stop right here or give us a movie where we like finally win with heavy sacrifices and like, you know. But that's just my dream because 86 has it, bro. Like, with all that being said, season 2 is a 4 out of 5. That is like firmly my ranking. I believe that 86 right now could be a masterpiece if they stop right now and they do not go the SAO route where they just ruin something that had a really good solid first season and a good follow-up with all of the comments that I've said about this anime. I hope 86 just stops right here. And that's just my rating. Tell me if you agree, do you disagree. Thank you also for making it to the end of the video. I really do enjoy 86. I do think this is a masterpiece of a 2 season. And I'm sure they're going to come out with a 3rd season. At least in my thought processes. And the way that like anime just works, I believe one day I'm going to see this and I'm just going to roll my eyes and hope they don't ruin it. So yeah, I tell you again, this is a 4 out of 5 season 2. It still was great. If you haven't seen 86, this is your time to just go knock it out. It's some really quick watches. It's actually great. That first season is tough. It's actually really tough. Please go watch this anime. It is wonderful. Take care, be well, and be easy.